And the only way to confirm talent is to spend time with them. We like to spend lots of time on skills development, making them better, like developing the wow and everything. If you don't have that confidence piece, that motivation bucket will not be activated. We're an artist-centered organization, so everything gravitates around the artist. So creating that environment to me is super important.
Welcome to the StageLink podcast, your access and connection to the live performing arts. In this podcast, you'll hear from some of the industry's most inspiring people from around the globe who create magic on stage and backstage. Our guests share their knowledge, passion, and the real stories of how a show comes together. We hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to the StageLink podcast. My name is Anna Robb, and today we're talking with André Lachance. André is a world-renowned leader in human development. He is the Senior Director of Casting and Human Performance at Cirque du Soleil. He's also a speaker, master facilitator, and award-winning author. Throughout his international career, he's led hundreds of conferences and workshops in over 20 countries, inspiring organizations such as the National Hockey League, UNESCO, and several Olympic committees. André is an expert in leadership dynamics, team cohesion, and high-performance coaching. Former head coach of Canada's national women's baseball team, he led his team to the top of the world rankings. He also guided the French team to a European title in its first year. A respected professor in the University of Ottawa, he was honoured with the Professor of the Year Award of Excellence, and the Government of Canada awarded him the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal. Co-author of Team Chemistry, published in 2022, André offers a refreshing approach rooted in real-life experience and innovation. Based in Montreal, he continues to inspire leaders, teams, and organizations around the globe. André, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. So tell me first, seeing that most of your history was with sports, how did you end up in the world of performing arts and with Cirque du Soleil?
That's a good question. Like I get it all the time. I become a baseball coach who gets to Cirque. Well, the opportunity came in 2022. I was at the point of my career where I needed a change. And then this opportunity came up. I had good conversation with the senior leadership at Cirque. At the time, they were looking for someone to oversee everybody gravitating around the artist, basically like strength conditioning and so on and so forth, in order to create some sort of a integrated support team, which that was some of my expertise also. And the role evolved over time, moved to casting, I think 18 months after, and then recently got back coaching and performance medicine as part of that whole package of casting and human performance.
Wonderful. And what are the sort of similarities and differences between, your former career in the sports realm and now with Cirque with the Cirque du Soleil performance?
Well, at the end of the day, both remains performance. I would say the main difference between sports and performing arts is that in sports, you have like a moment during the course of the year where you have to be at your best, physically, mentally, technically, tactically. I'll give you an example. If you're an Olympians, you know exactly the date where you need to be at your peak performance. That date could be in July for Summer Olympic or could be in February for Winter Olympics. You know that date. In performing arts, in circus, you have to perform at least close to your best every single day. So all the concepts of periodization and trying to be at your best at a certain time doesn't really exist in our world. The second main difference that I had to learn also is in sports, the elements, I like to see it as a table, just to explain myself a little bit. So if you look at the table, you got 4 strong legs. So in sports, you have the technical leg, which is important, the tactical, the physical, and the mental one. In performing arts, you take the tactical one, you throw it away, and you replace it by the artistic one. So that's the main difference between the two worlds. So coming from sports, so I had to learn a little bit more about the artistic side, which I was fortunate to have a fantastic team with me who educate me, help me understand what the differences are, and made me better along the way, I believe.
Yeah, I love that. I love that sort of adaptation from tactical to artistic. It's so true. And I think that sometimes that I've experienced people who have come from sports background or gymnastics, even at the elite level, and ended up on a show that I've worked on, there's been quite a psyche shift to that repetition and that longevity rather than doing everything all at once to do, maximize the show. It is so true that it's not just one moment. It's a marathon that you have to perform consistently.
And in sports, like you have to meet certain standards because you do have judges that are going to be judging you on certain aspects, where in our world, well, there's more freedom. So there's nobody setting standards. You can elevate that bar. You could be creative. You could go outside of the box, right? You can think differently, which sometimes brings adaptation to athletes coming and become artists. Like developing more presence on stage, which in some cases takes more time. But it's a beauty of that transition.
In your book, you talk about like a strong culture and communication as part of a great team dynamic. How is that foundation built as a team, and what do you sort of look for in building a team to create that cohesion?
And I think, and thanks for asking that question, because I think it's super important. And I believe many teams and many organizations, we don't spend enough time in identifying who we are, like our DNA, like what in the book I call the kilometer zero. Kilometer zero, and the example I like to give, if you're in Hong Kong, where you are right now, and if you want to go to another city, and you put that name of that other city in your GPS, it's going to take you to that kilometer zero. So that's the center point of that city. In many cities in Europe, this is identified by something unique. It could be a little statue. It could be a little something like a cafe or whatever. It's clearly identified. In the old days, when people got lost, they would go to kilometer zero because it was a center and of the city. And then from there, they could meet people and they could go to another direction. And that's the same thing with any organization. Your kilometer zero is basically your guiding principles, is who you are. And when it's time to make a decision about your team, about your organization, you can always refer back on those guiding principles. And I know sometimes it's painful to do because it's not super exciting to do at some point, but it brings to me, it builds a foundation about who you are as a group, as a team, regardless of the size. And then from there, you can elevate your competencies, your skills, and go to another level. And that, to me, that's super important as a team and as any organization, taking that step back and identifying who you are.
I love that. When you are in the casting process now, how much of who the person is compared to their physical ability are you assessing when you're thinking about creating a troupe?
Yeah, and that's a good question too. When you do identify potential, there's more, remember referring back to the 4 strong legs, there's more than the acrobatic/technical. There's more to this. There's the capabilities of working in a circus environment with a closed group. If you're on a touring show, for an example, adapting to a new environment. So there's more to it than just the acrobatic. Your personalities will be important. And we're in the process right now of looking at how could we identify better those metrics in order to make a decision based on the whole person versus only on something that you see on a video or during an audition or during a performance, during a competition or festival. And I think that's important because if we're looking at building a durable and confident artist moving forward, and confidence we could talk about later because I think it's important. Those attributes become super important when identifying and also developing talent.
Mm. And when they're identified, do you do any interviews to sort of get their personality as well? Do you sort of curate those conversations as well in that casting process?
Yeah. And identifying talent, I like to say that it's fairly easy. Like you could go to a festival, a competition, you'll pick up the best easy. I recently went to see a women's hockey game and I don't know women's hockey. I was just watching. I said, okay, number 4 seems pretty good. And I Google the name and say, oh, she's on the national team. And number 12, she's on the national team too. So that's fairly easy to identify at any level, I believe. Developing talent is another thing, and confirming talent is another thing. And your question refers more to confirming the talent. And what we're capable of doing here in Montreal with our Next Gen program is exactly that. So we're confirming talent, and the only way to confirm talent is to spend time with them versus only seeing one competition or whatever. By spending time with them, we can measure coachability, the ability to welcome feedback, the openness to creation, and those type of things. Same thing on the physical side. We could see how much they can develop and what kind of potential they could have. And by spending sometimes between 2 to 4 months in a performance program here in Montreal, we can have that confirmation. And then when you have that confirmation, it's easier to present on a show and to be realistically confident that they're going to succeed.
Mm. You mentioned just before confidence. How does that play into your strategy?
So, super important. And not only, I think that focus is not enough on confidence. I like to see 3 pillars. Like your competencies obviously are super important. The confidence and the motivation. When you get those 3 pillars and when you activate that engine, you're going to have longer participation, active participation, and also performance. Obviously, as coaches, we like to spend lots of time on skills development, making them better, like developing the wow and everything. If you don't have that confidence piece, that motivation bucket will not be activated. So the time we spend on confidence over the last last 2 years, has become probably one of the pillar of everything that we do. Are we doing it enough? Probably not. It's a long process, but the way we talk to the artist, the way we behave towards them, I like to tell the artistic director and everyone, just the fact that you're showing up and watching training, it has an effect on their confidence, whether it's positive or negative. Without doing anything, you just show up, you're just in the training studio, there's an effect on confidence. So as leaders, as people around the artist, you need to be aware of the words that you're using, the behaviors that you're showing also, because like it or not, you're going to impact performance and long-time participation. So we're looking at ways to better educate our people, our coaches, our therapists. And something that we found out that is kind of correlated with science also is that 80% of the participants, regarding of your group, will take their confidence in themselves and their people around them. So basically they trust people around them, which as coaches, we like those people because you tell them to do something, they're going to do it. They won't complain. But there is a 20% that they will get their confidence through themselves, but people around them, not so much. And our first reaction sometimes is to like not wanting to work with them, but we're finding out that it's our approach towards them that makes a difference. So the way we're going to intervene, the strategies we're going to use, if we change them, we're going to be able to get those 20% work in collaboration with us also. So that's a big shift, but it's super interesting. The more you dig into this, the more you find other ways to operate, other ways to intervene, other ways to interact with the people, with the performers. And that to me is a game changer when it's time to enhance performance, quicker return after an injury, for an example. And to me, that's a key pillar.
I love that approach. It's something that when I think I just first said confidence, I thought, very sort of naively, we're working on the confidence of the person that's in the space doing the thing. But you've quite accurately said that confidence is built by sustaining a quality environment around that person doing the thing and the people having the right approach. And I totally agree, because people need to feel that kind of safe space to try things and experiment and be vulnerable, because artists generally, from a creative perspective, not only physically are doing things that are risky, but also creatively vulnerable when they're trying a character out or they're trying something that's not natural to them, be it choreography, when they've been, that's not been their discipline historically. So I love that approach. With your kind of casting and sort of in the same lens and in terms of confidence, talking about the people that get put in the Cirque environment now, is there a trend for, that kind of specialist skill, and or is there more a generalist things where they can contribute to the larger show and do choreography and all of these other things? And is that part of building their confidence, is obviously to expand their capabilities as a performer and using the team to do that?
Yeah, totally. And one thing I forgot to mention, and you probably know, and the people like listening to this right now probably know, but confidence takes time to build, but it takes a second to destroy by a moment, a comment, or whatever. So being self-aware of that is super important. So yes, going back to your question, I would say versatility is becoming super important. And as you become more versatile, as you're trying and risking more and discovering more, being in a confident environment, like with people being there to support you, being vulnerable, welcoming risks and failures is part of that. Like you cannot have success in developing versatility without having an environment where it is psychologically safe to perform and make mistakes and learn from it. And that's what we say to our young next gen artists coming to Montreal. It's time here to fail. You could try all kinds of different things and you're going to discover yourself and you're going to be guided by our coaches in order to see where your ceiling is and try to elevate that ceiling as the days and the weeks and the months goes, But you're totally right. Like it's intertwined together, like confidence and versatility. And that's something that we look for artists. If you can do more than one thing, it's a plus, right?
100%. Yeah. And what's the difference for you being in this environment now? Because when we talk about managing teams and managing the circus or any performing arts is filled with personalities and passions and things. Is it similar in the elite sports realm too? Is it the same sort of thing, or is there differences that you see in the arts in terms of people's you said that sort of in the sports realm that things are quite technical, whereas in the artistic, what is good and what is bad is a little bit more subjective rather than an objective sort of elite sports person. So is there more personalities and is there more passion involved, or is it similar? And how do we manage that as an approach to building a team when there's such an eclectic group of people coming together?
Yeah, but I would say also that there's more objectivity in the subjectivity than we think.
Right.
There's probably a little bit more, right? So you know what? There is a beauty to this, and I think the artistic side is something that we need to keep at the forefront of our evaluation of our development. And sometimes, like we put lots of emphasis on the wow, on the acrobatic, but at the end of the day, like the artistic piece remain the center element of what we show to the public. And the appreciation of the public will come from the acrobatic, but will also come the artistic. So going back to what we mentioned at the beginning, we get athletes coming here without being exposed to anything artistic, but it's a big, I would say, out of your comfort zone thing when you come to Montreal and you get the workshop on clowns, dance and movement, singing, and then something that you've never done before. And quickly, after a couple of weeks, we can see the ones that can emerge from this and can have success. So being in and going back to your question again, like that passion that we see in sports, we see it in circus also, we see it everywhere. So I don't see much difference. If you're a football player or a golf player or tennis player, you do have, most of them, I guess, I hope, they do have passion for it. But again, it's also linked with what I mentioned before. I think that passion is linked to being able to perform, being confident in doing it. And if you have that connection between the two, you want to come back tomorrow and you're going to be durable over time. And then that's just how you develop that passion.
No, I love that. And in terms of, what does leadership play in that role of team cohesion, and who takes that mantle in this role? I mean, everybody has their role in performance wellness or the artistic director or the producer in that sense. How does leadership play into creating that good team dynamic?
I think the key to leadership for me is that, if you're stuck with one style of leadership, one leadership style, that's not going to work. Like a group evolves over time and your leadership style should follow as well. So, a group goes through stage of development where you get to know each other a little bit. I like to compare it, and the book will compare it to life. When you're born, you're discovering your parents and vice versa. Comes a teenager. You know what happened when you're a teenager? There's a little rebellion towards your parents a little bit. And then you get to young adult where there's norms being identified for you and you can function. And then when you become an adult and you become more of a performer. And the same thing in a group. You discover the leader. You get at some point to some sort of rebellion, vice versa. You get to develop some norms together where you can function, and then you can after that perform. But as you go through those stages, your style cannot be the same. I cannot act or lead the same way when we are starting together versus where we're in kind of a middle crisis and versus where there's more performance. The autonomy of the group will take more space as we move on that spectrum. Therefore, you should step back a little bit and let them perform. I like to say sometimes, many coaches overcoach, where sometimes if you want to develop autonomy, which is super important for us at Cirque, you need to, what I like to say, to set up and shut up. So you set up the environment, you step back, and then you let them perform the way they can.
I love that. Tell me about your personal journey in terms of your career to this point, through sports, and how you learnt to be strategic in this way or to come to the sort of knowledge and experience to sort of approach to even write a book. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah. So I grew up in sports. I wanted to work in sports. I went to school, and I know at the time I wanted to be a phys ed teacher, which didn't last long because I was not patient enough with people forgetting and everything. So I was more of I would say, high performance type person. I wanted to have that group of people who want to be there, basically. And then I started the sport of baseball because my dad was a fan and I grew up with that sport. Became a coach early. I played before also. And then came that super good offer to coach a women's national team, which at the time I was not sure if I wanted to do it, to be quite honest, because coaching women, I've never done it before. And I was not sure about that. And they told me, well, try it. If you like it, you can keep it. If you don't, then we'll take someone else. And it lasted 15 years. I learned so much. I became, I would say, also a women in sport in leadership position allied along the way, which I think is important. But I think what drove me all those years was curiosity. I had a prof at university saying, if you want to be the best, you got to see the best. And I was in baseball. The best out there were the Cubans. I went to Cuba. I learned my game there. I went to school there a little bit, take some courses, learned so much from them. Resilient population made me better along the way also. And I kept being curious, discovering new nations, how they do things, trying things also, fail along the way, but learning as I go. And that drove all my life, basically. And that's what I try to convey to my students at university at the same time, those same messages. If you want to be the best, go see the best, be curious, but sometimes just a little bit longer, because sometimes we're not curious enough for a long period of time. Be curious longer, learn every day something, share as much as possible, ask questions. So yeah, listening well as well to people. I like to say listening to understand versus listening to respond, which we all fail at some point. So yeah, that has been my journey. I think driven a lot by curiosity.
I love that. In your coaching or even in this role now, so obviously sometimes when you're building a team or you're with a team, there's people that don't fit the mold, and the pathway to dealing with that, at what point do you decide, is it coachable or is it somebody that needs to leave the company, and how do you deal with those situations?
Those are never easy situations. Like to me, I think we need to ensure that a person isn't sitting on the right chair to be able to contribute. And to me, it's like knowing who's in your village, like who's on your team, trying to know them a little bit more than who they are from 9 to 5 every day, knowing what drives them so you can put them in the right place. And sometimes, you see people put in position where they thought they could have success, but maybe not in a place where they could contribute the best. And it's try to put those people at the right places. Sometimes, like people don't like the direction where it's going. And my previous job, like I was ready to move on because I was not really in a position where I like where this thing was going. And sometimes it's time to move on. There's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing about the person. It's nothing about what they've accomplished before. It's just like good timing or bad timing or whatever it is. But for me as a leader, it's important to understand well who they are and see how they contribute and be happy at work. Because at the end of the day, if you're not happy at work, like it's not what we live for.
100%, 100%. As Cirque continues to evolve in sort of their offerings in terms of the shows that they're making and what they're doing, do you anticipate that the structure of the teams are going to change, or who you're looking for changes, or how the typical formula that the Cirque's kind of relied on in the past, is that going to evolve, or is it evolving?
I think to me, like the recent move of like bringing casting and human performance together was a move that was made at the start of this year, 2025. So I think we're kind of a more stable like environment now to thrive and to work together, because I see lots of connections between casting, which is, talent identification, talent development, and then you got the coaching and the performance medicine all attached to this. So I see lots of logic behind this. And I think we've reached, and I think probably later this year, we'll reach a level of stability where we're going to be able to work well together, and also to develop even more programs and more better experiences for everyone. So I think we're in a good position right now.
That's interesting. I think because I understand that, but maybe for all our listeners who are not in the Cirque world, can you describe the difference between casting and human performance in the Cirque universe?
Yeah. So casting is, as we know, like auditions, scouting, trying to find talent and everything, and like propose them to shows for eventually being selected and being hired. Where human performance is more the group of people that are working directly with the artist, acrobatic coaches, artistic coaches. Performance medicine is more therapist, strength and conditioning. Add to that mental preparation, nutrition, and all those people. So that's human performance. Coaching and PMed is the nucleus of human performance, making decisions to ensure safety of the artist on stage during training. Those are the people there, and helping them recover, helping them prepare, and helping them perform. So now bringing everything together where we identify talent, but not only we identify, develop talent, but we support them with a group of people, qualified people, that are going to ensure that they're going to be durable and performer over time at the highest possible level.
In the metric of a successful team in sports is generally a winning side. So in the circus world, what's a metric of a successful team for you in the Cirque world?
That's a very, very good question. I think that are capable of continuing to grow as an artist, as a person. To me, that's probably the best metric that we could have. People happy, confident, willing, wanting to contribute to the organization in order to support. Because, we're in an artist-centered organization. So everything gravitates around the artist. So creating that environment to me is super important.
You mentioned earlier the next-gen artists. When you talk about next-gen artists, are you bringing people to Montreal headquarters to train them for just generally, or is they trained for a specific show? What is that structure?
So we have, that's a super good question. And we're super proud about that program because like our percentage of success is super high, over 90%. So let me explain a little bit what it is. So we do have partnership with some circus centers around the globe. We have one in the States. We have one in Brazil. We have in England. We have France. We have Portugal. And most recently, Australia. So basically what we do is that we try to support those centers as much as possible with visits. So we go there, we do a workshop, not only for their school, but for the region globally. So we go there, let's say we have a theater board, the workshop, we bring one of our expert in theater board. They're going to run the session for a week, sometimes 10 days. Sometimes we're going to do two different disciplines over a period of 2 weeks because there's lots of travel. You're going to go to Australia for 2 days, as you know.
Sure.
So we try to optimize it as much as we can. And then it's an opportunity for us to, what I mentioned earlier, identify talent and also confirm the potential of going to the next level. And the next level is coming to Montreal to what we call a PPP. PPP is a pre-potential program. They come to Montreal for a longer period of time where they're going to be supported in Montreal by our coaches, by workshop, by everything that they need, makeup sessions and so on and so forth. And they're going to develop in one discipline. So let's use again teeterboard. They're going to come for teeterboard, let's say for 3 to 4 months. And then we're going to elevate their acrobatic skills. We're going to elevate their artistic skills. And after PPP, most of the time, we feel that they are ready for specific formation, for specific show, or to go directly on a show. And like I said earlier, our success rate is fairly high right now, and we're super proud. And we've seen them going to shows all over the world. So we're pretty happy about that. So every year you're looking at 4 to 5 disciplines that we bring to Montreal. So a total about 50, 60 artists that would come on a regular basis during a course of 1 year. And it's an opportunity for them to discover new people, meet other people. And when they see themselves again, meet again on shows, then there's a connection being made. So lots of benefits to this. And it's great to see their development because I can witness it here every day. You could go to the studio and you could see over, even after a couple of weeks only, you see a big difference in how they can perform. Their confidence is rising. And that's what it's all about.
Oh, I mean, what a wonderful program. It's it acknowledges the fact that you have to build that pipeline, right? To be able to create quality talent to get out to shows rather than just be farming the industry. You're obviously investing in that development. So congrats on that initiative. It sounds wonderful.
I mentioned teeterboard. You don't grow up doing teeterboard. Like it's something you develop.
Nobody's in the backyard doing teeterboard.
No, exactly. So you basically, you're a trampolinist or gymnast, and then you say, okay, that could be cool. And then you try it. But and it takes time, to develop those skills. So we need to give them time to develop, to reach those levels. And we need to identify those type of disciplines where there's more time needed to develop skills to meet our standards of performance, where they could thrive on stage and perform well. So that's kind of our focus. We're looking at those disciplines. It takes a little bit more time to develop. Yeah.
Wonderful. André, thank you so much for spending some time with us on the StageLink podcast, and thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. And I wish you the best for the coming years with Cirque and all your work over there.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me. And it was a nice conversation. I appreciated it.
Thank you for listening to the StageLink podcast. StageLink is an online platform that gives you access and connection to the live performing arts. As a guest, you can read about live performing arts from across the globe and gain insights from performers and artists on stage and all the amazing people who work behind the curtain. If you are an industry professional, StageLink Pro offers jobs, networks, and career support tools, and you can build your own professional profile on the site. As a StageLink podcast listener, you are eligible for 20% off your StageLink Pro membership. Visit us at stagelink.com, and when joining, use the code SLPodcast. StageLink, that's StagelYNC.com.